I got this. Hey guys, welcome back to the Afterburn, where we have conversations with a bunch of motherfuckers who just ate hot stuff. Let's check in with our fucking people contestants. Alex Wiley, how the fuck you doing?
I'm actually in a lot of pain. My nose is running. My tongue is actually on fire. My lips are hurting. My fingers are even hurting from handling them.
The dude took it like a champ, an absolute champion.
Jamie.
Wow.
Jamie. Let's move on to you, dude, really quick. Like, for real, you did not drink anything that whole time. What the fuck is wrong with you?
My lips are burning more than a hooker's crotch, I tell you.
I didn't drink shit. I didn't drink shit that whole time.
You gotta email Andy, I think. Or how did he join in? How did Andy join in?
My co-host said I wouldn't pass the second wing, so I had to prove him wrong.
I hate my son.
I'm glad he did it.
Bring him home some sauce.
Sorry, send Andy that link I've just sent to the group, and it will know to join.
So me send or you send it?
Jesus Christ!
You send it, please, because you've been.
Okay, I got it. I can do it.
Okay, while Tom is doing that, I want to say thank you to everybody that's joined us for that. That was really, really difficult. Jamie, I am so glad that we managed to get you back on the thread. Onto the
yeah, I humbly apologise about. I don't know what the fuck's going on my laptop, but we know it works on my phone, so we know for future.
So you need to throw that laptop away.
Pretty much.
It's got a virus.
It works for everything but StreamYard.
How are you, TS?
Yeah, it's tasty. It was quite tasty, I found as well, don't you think, boys? It was quite like flavoursome and as much as it wanted to like absolutely blow your face off, which it has done. So it was.
I was doing good until we got to like the 9th one.
Yeah, but to be fair, David, right? We pre-basted ours. We didn't go, here's the bottle, let's just whack it fucking on there.
Yeah, so
see what happens, you mental bastard.
It's intimate, so it should be.
I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of you, David.
I love you guys. We did it.
Yeah,
we did do it.
I love you
hey,
too, and I'm just so proud of you, man. Like, it just, you're everything to me. So just,
I'm
so proud of you.
I love you, Tom Stevens. You're a good guy. I don't care what Scott say about you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Andy McElfredge back again.
There he is.
I just wanted to take this moment to take the questions from that Hot Wings and put it into my shredder. There we go.
Never has to relive this again.
Okay, it's all behind us, gentlemen, for now.
I need to say a massive thank you to Julie Fox, who's my co-host for the Shrewsbury Biscuit podcast, and to Darren from Gin Different. If you're in Shrewsbury and you want to try out some different gins, make sure you go to Gin Different in the Market Hall in Shrewsbury. He's a quiz master himself, so he's like, I want to do these questions, and him and amongst other people, a lot of our listeners sent them to Julie, who then sent them to Andy. So thank you so much, guys, for doing that for us.
We'll get a full list of everyone that contributed to the show, and we'll be giving them a shout out personally next episode. It was something like in the midst of all like this planning, I forgot to do. So that's my fault. If anyone gets really mad, you can blame me for it.
No one can get mad at that face.
Shane Chepsey there says that was so funny. Watching all you guys crying from the Spice made my night.
Shane
Honestly, I did not sweat or cry as much as I thought I would. Like on the top of my head, I usually, when it gets something hot, I can feel it start from the top of my head and then sweat. Nothing. I feel okay.
That fan helped you, man.
Probably.
If you were on my team, I would call you out for it. Andy, how are you with this weird, this insane world that we live in right now? How are you celebrating Halloween this year, sir?
I have to admit it, not a big Halloween guy. And since I had kids when they were little, here in Los Angeles, there was kind of a trend there for a while that these sort of roving gangs of super scary, like
clowns,
people in their 20s would go around and scare little kids. And both of my kids got scared of Halloween, so we didn't really go out much after they were, 6. So,
Jesus,
wow.
What'd you do instead? Like, what would you do as a family instead?
We would make stuff to give to the other kids and stay at home and open up the front courtyard for people to come and get some candy and ooh and ah over the other kids. But it's a tradition in our house. I mean, as a real Satanist, I find it's like Satanist light. I just can't jump in on something I just really think is half-assed.
I feel bad this year. I mean, don't get me wrong. I know this is such a first world problem, so excuse me for it, but I just feel bad for my kids because I have all these great memories of Halloween, you know, like going out with my friends and getting pillowcases and filling it full of sugary sweets, getting home and just eating until you're sick. I mean, it's like it's very American to me, probably, but I just feel bad. But we're trying to make do. I think of it in the terms of like, you know, if you think back to, because now we know the 1930s is when they originated trick or treating. Thank you, Andy.
Thank you.
Before that, they would have Halloween parties. You know, they'd get together and they do things together at a house. So
They were called box socials back then.
What?
They were called box socials back then.
Were they? Andy?
I was just joking.
I was about to say, don't say shit in front of Andy. Andy knows things, dude. He's not like us. He's smart.
I knew that was a joke, and I was trying to laugh, but
Thank you, Andy. Oh, man.
Andy, how are you with hot food? Could you have done what we just did?
I have done. I started my career as a food writer in the U.S. and actually in London. There's a guide called the Zagat Survey, and I was their first employee. So for many years, I would go out and, you know, if like the finest French seafood restaurants that opened in the U.S. in the last 100 years opened, my boss Tim Zagat would go, and when like a hot wings joint would open, that's what I would go and review. So I have the spiciest food I've ever had is the Korean barbecue. That was the first time I've ever had a ghost pepper.
Was it Koji's?
Koji's in the East Village. It was a name like that.
Yeah.
In any event, they would, and my friends were all like, "Let's do it, man! Let's do the hottest dish served in the U.S." And it was jalapenos stuffed with a meat sauce made from habanero with a touch of ghost pepper. And that's where I learned that if I have anything like that, all the hair flattens to my head. And I'm like, I did not know that I could sweat there. Like that part of my ear has a sweat gland in it. Well, it does. And so, yeah, I got used to it doing that job. And so I do like spicy food, but it's not what I go for first.
I think the hottest thing up until this point I had was like I had some like exceptionally hot curry a couple times. Like, I mean, like very hot. They put a challenge, they put a level from like 1 to 10. I was like, let's try the 9, and that was pretty spicy. But as far as like straight spice go, I tend to want to enjoy my food, so I don't go for the spiciest thing. You know,
I'm the same. Yeah.
Well,
I'm quite surprised with myself. Sorry, I didn't mean to
no,
interrupt.
let's.
In high school, we had
There you go.
in high school we had a teacher who was also the detention teacher, and there was a night he gave us an option of eating a habanero or staying for detention, but he didn't tell anyone not to touch their eyes. So we all ended up in the nurse's office instead of going home blind as bats.
Meanwhile,
That's amazing.
days I used to just beat them. I gotta get some pepper. But Alex, you had something to say about your experiences with hot foods.
I mean, so I'm not a big fan of hot food. I deal with that quite well, actually. I think up until like the 8th one, I don't think I've even felt it, to be honest. Which is crazy because I don't eat hot food at all whatsoever. But I remember I went to a friend who's a Hindu. He cooked us the hottest curry I've ever tasted in my life. But it was so tasty that I just went through the pain. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that pain is not. I don't think it's necessary. There's food up there that tastes good without the pain. So I just can't stay away from it. But those last sort of 4 or 5 were killers. They were absolute killers.
yeah, that wasn't fun. Like in the beginning, it was actually tasted pretty okay. I was like, hey, this was a good decision. It's a little spicy, a little flavorful. Near the end, I just really wanted to kill the fat asshole that said, let's do this. And I still hate him to this day. What a jerk.
Was that you, by any way?
It was me, by the way.
Andy, so we know you from Edumacation, obviously the podcast you do with Kevin Smith.
Yes.
The world has kind of gone a bit crazy right now and a bit slowed down a bit. What people tend to have a bit more time now to make Zoom style sort of podcasts and things. We've seen Kevin sort of experimenting with outdoor live shows and things. Is there anything you guys are going to be working on soon?
Well, we do other work together. We've written a couple of TV pilots, and we wrote a movie that we did in Florida. So we have that. We have another life together than podcast. But yeah, I think we're going to try to do something on camera sometime soon. It's just our schedules are very difficult to match up. So normally when I can get there, I'll hang out in his office with my mask on, and he shuts the door and hotboxes me by smoking 4 of the strongest joints I think that exist in the world. I try to just maintain some sense of sobriety and get through as much of the show as I can before I start giggling as much as he does.
And when it comes to writing, is it easier being around other funny people like Kev, or is it good to do it by yourself but have an idea who you're making it for? Does that make sense?
Well, you do both. I mean, it's like on most shows I've worked on, you have a room where you gather with the writers and you'll read out ideas, or you'll go through a script and you'll try to beat jokes and make it better. But when it comes to actually drafting or writing jokes or whatever, most of the monologue writers at the Tonight Show spend all their time in their offices. You never saw them because they just were cranking through the papers and watching the news and writing as many jokes as they could.
Speaking of the Tonight Show, you were a writer on the Tonight Show, sir. What can you give us like your favorite memory from doing so?
I had a lot of things. I mean, I was on there for 2 years, and traveling with Kevin, I had met Kevin at MTV. I had written some jokes for his premiere show for Mallrats, but we didn't really get together until it was right after September 11th, and he appeared to promote Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, and he did so well on the couch. The executive producer was like, "Hey, let's send you out as a correspondent." And that's the best one I got. So I met him in Syracuse, and because it was 9/11 had just happened, people were not flying; they were driving. So we went to all the stupid roadside attractions we could find in the U.S., and we really went out of our way. Like, I mean, the world's largest ball of twine was right there, but we went to the world's second largest ball. And we just had fun with it. Like, we could stand in front of a thing of refrigerator magnets, and just riff jokes for about 5 minutes, and then get him on camera, and we'd have a great segment. He's very talented. I've worked with a lot of comedians and a lot of other people on camera, and he just had the quickest wit, but also his own way. So I think I've got to say, Kevin experiences were among the best. But I took Chappelle to the Olympics, and there's stuff that was like big career stuff for me too that I love there. And working with Jay, and I will be working with Jay again. We're going to do a remake of You Bet Your Life, the Groucho Marx game show. And it still isn't. I mean, Jay is signed to it. I'm still haven't been hired, but it looks like I'll be able to help out on that show, and that's something I'm really looking forward to because I love that man.
I love Groucho Marx. I love Harpo the most.
Really? Well, his lines are very easy to memorize. That's for sure.
It was the body language, the whistling, and then like his like being able to communicate with his eyes, like.
Yeah, but you can't do that character now because if you look at a lot of the stuff he does, something will be happening, and a beautiful girl will walk through the set, and we will just chase her.
Yeah.
No, but Groucho had some of the greatest lines of all times, like, "Don't you ever shut up? What, were you vaccinated with the phonograph needle?" Like, everything off the cuff. And he was the pun master. It'll be different with Jay because Jay's not a punster. He's much more of a joke guy.
Yeah.
We were very lucky to have Mark Summers come on our show a few months ago, actually, should I say. Wow. It's been that long, right, Bruno?
It's been that long.
And we were talking about sort of the differences between sort of then and now. And like Jay Leno is like, he's one of a kind, right? He's a guy of an era. Whereas now we're kind of moving into the era of the YouTube star or the influencers.
The TikToker.
Yeah, the TikTokers, things like that. What does it feel like to move from one era to another, knowing what it's been like to work with the guys from the 80s and 90s and the guys that have formed what TV was compared to what it is now?
I mean, it's fun. It's like you have to be that guy now. You can't be a writer anymore and not do a podcast and have a blog or whatever it is. You know, there's always those extras. And actually, Jay, in his defense, you know, he's got like 7 million followers on social media. He does this show called Jay Leno's Garage. He just shows he's a big car collector and he has one of the best collections in the world. And so he does a show about it, but all of his old friends, all the celebrity friends come and do the show. And so he's actually got a bigger social media following than Kevin. And it's because he's actually making the leap forward. You know, he started during the Tonight Show, he started doing that show exclusively on YouTube to develop that audience. And it may not be now, but for a while there, it was the #1 show on YouTube for like 6 years, #1 channel. So I think everybody's got, you know, you got to keep your eye on that stuff, but you use a lot of the same muscles as a writer, no matter what you're doing it for.
I like the fact that, you know, it's made it more accessible to everyone, because before you really had to be a Johnny Carson or you had to be a Jay Leno or a Dave Letterman. You had to be someone with some real talent. And I'm not trying to sound shitty about it. I'm just saying, like, now it's far more accessible for people that maybe didn't have the means or the to get into to showbiz. Right. I mean, if you look at there's a wonderful film on cinematographers called Visions of Light, and in it, Coppola says, this was made in the I think mid 80s, and he says, listen, all of entertainment, all this stuff is being democratized. There's going to be, you know, I had to make movies my whole life to get into the right film school, to get to the right place where I could raise the money, where I could afford, you know, and he just goes through all the steps that he had to take. Now, some girl in Kansas City can buy a video camera and make a movie. And that inspired a lot of people, Kevin being one of them. So they did all this. They realized that everything got cheaper and cheaper. Well, now that model has made it into all of entertainment, not just making movies. And, you know, just like the internet decides, it's not like you need to go to an advertiser and come up with a whole strategic plan on launching someone. The internet decides if you're any good and you get some traction, that's going to be a success. So it's pretty cool. The only thing that kind of the only thing about it is sometimes you don't even have to be good. You just got to be lucky in the new world that we live in. Like if you're lucky enough to have a video that either speaks to somebody or makes somebody laugh at the right moment, you can be, you know, viral before you know it. And even if you even though you're not good at anything, you just had that one moment, that type of stuff can launch a whole career now. It's fucking insanity at the same time. It does, but those careers flame out. I mean, there was a lot of companies have come and gone based on like Defy Media. They were buying, and anybody gets a certain number of hits, they just make a deal with them and they try to develop them for whatever else. And all the networks would have talent holds on all these YouTube stars, and they never made anything with them because they didn't have sort of an experience level. But there are people who have the goods and they're not lucky, they're talented. And you have to be both, really, but they're able to say, okay, I'm going to put the work in. I'm going to learn what it means to write 30 jokes a day, because it's a muscle. It's not a talent. Once you learn it and you can do it, then you can do it forever. Go ahead, Al.
No, I was just going to say, I work nights, so I come in the morning, and my little boy was dressed like this, right? He was really cute, but he was dressed like Duddy from FGTV, which is a very popular.
I hope you spanked him.
So there he is. He's got the goatee, the hat, and the headset. Now, FGTV is a very popular kids sort of gaming channels. Like they sit with the family, they game, and it's very popular, right? And I thought, I'd love to get this guy in the show. I was trying to find him. I couldn't find his email. I couldn't find an agent for him. I couldn't find him. This guy's a ghost, even though he's got this massive channel. So I thought I'd go onto his YouTube channel, look about the channel, and you'd never guess how many views this motherfucker has got on YouTube. 14.7 billion.
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Billion. 14.7 billion.
The story there, though, is that kids programming, like there is I think there's a cynical approach that you can take. You're like, okay, I've never wanted to do this in my life, but kids on YouTube seem to like to watch public domain songs like The Wheels in the Bus Go Round and Round with a video attached to it. So this one producer in LA just raised about 15 grand and started making them with this Indian animation company. Very cheap. They look terrible. And he's got something like 6 or 7 billion views on all the different stuff he does, because parents don't sit and watch that stuff with their kids. They hand the screen to the kid, and then when the kids get to decide, they just want to see it again and again and again. It's crazy, but
it's very different, because when my kids go to watch something on YouTube, it's generally like, their favorite YouTubers. And there's no real story about it. It's either a day in their lives, or in my son's case, it's Super Smash videos about, the game that he watches, and he just wants to hear more stuff, whatever, which is fine. But like when I try to watch something with them, I demand something a little more story driven, like, like I still enjoy and like I, enjoyed as a child. I wonder if that's going to change how kids like from their generation are going to expect movies to be, based off of like the videos that they watch now and what their favorite things are.
Well, I did a cartoon for Nickelodeon years ago called Rocket Power, and my consultant on that show, who was this wonderful woman, Vicky Ariasu, she's on the Television Academy's board of children's programming, and so I get to keep in touch with trends with her. And it's funny, kids still love a story, but there is a impulse that kids have to watch something that their parents don't want to watch. They want it to be for them, and we had it and they have it. And man, I don't think it's ever been more different. Like I don't know any parents that can sit and watch like Paw Patrol, but that's what the kids like to watch, and because it's for them, they stay with it really well. But when it comes to, they'll test things like a good story, like Pixar movies, they have eyeballs the entire movie. It's like how I was in a singing group in New York, and we did some songs for Sesame Street, and they would test everything by, they do an animation and they just put it on a TV in a room with a bunch of kids playing with the greatest toys that they could possibly buy. There's like 500 pounds of Legos and every kind of new toy, and with the TV on, they just wait for the kids to go, huh? They still do that. That's what I think that people at home that want to do their own channels need to start doing, is saying, I want to make this thing, but I got to show it to the people I'm making it for to make decisions about it, to make it better, not just wait for the numbers to come in and not try to figure it out on my own.
Yeah, it's a big thing at the moment. We're part of big, huge sort of podcast communities, and I'm a guy that's built things and that things are doing really well. We all are.
Here he goes.
Also, you. No. All of us are. Jamie, you're the prime example. You know what it's like to sort of evolve an idea in a show and to grow and to make something that fits with the audience. But what the communities that we're part of, they'll just share links and they'll just like for like or share for share, and it's a terrible community to be part of. And Shane Chebsey, who's watching right now, he's in a band, a very good band, with co-creator of The Walking Dead, Charlie Adlard, on the drums, Cosmic Rays, big shout out to them. He says here as well, Andy says, right on, Andy, everything you say about working hard is spot on. It is important. But that's the point of it, isn't it? It's plying your trade and learning how to get good at it. You can't just expect the viewers to come by sharing a link.
And part of it is branding yourself. I mean, it sounds like something that is either developed and difficult in a different world, or something that is so stupid by saying, oh, branding. But really, you find the things that work. It's like, the Tonight Show was a great proving ground for a lot of the stuff, the short form stuff that me and the other writers are doing from that show, because we call it shoveling coal. We had to make a new show every single night. And you find out the stuff that works in front of a live audience 4 hours after you wrote it. Like, it's kind of terrifying. Like, there's no stand-up that would walk into a club and do all new material for an 8 o'clock audience. But we did that every night. And so we would learn what did well, and we would, beat it to death. had a bit I used to do called the Ask the Fruitcake Lady, where we took a 92-year-old lady that looked very elegant, and we would ask her questions about relationships. And she was really just, from a swamp in Florida, and she would just have the filthiest mouth. Well, the audience loved her, and so we did 52 of those. It's like now it's like you got to be able to know what you're doing and then be able to repeat it. And that is more of a muscle than it is, talent, and just have to be ready for it.
Yeah.
God damn. Yeah,
we've got a few minutes to see this. Jamie, have you got anything to ask Andy before we get out of here? Because you've been very quiet.
I was just going to add on top of what you were saying then when it comes to like feedback and stuff like that. It's like me and Tom, like you were saying, we've evolved our show and whatnot. It's changed so much, but getting that feedback from people is a nightmare. In the end, we've just decided to go, do you know what? No one said it's shit yet, so it must be good. so it's getting that feedback is quite a challenge. I suppose, as you were saying with stand-up comedians, they watch it, the audience laugh. Hey, it's good.
Right.
With shows like the Tonight Show and one, you hear back from people on social media like, did you watch the Tonight Show tonight? It was fucking great.
We had live audience too. We had ratings,
Yeah.
but live audience was usually a pretty good indicator. If you just took comedians and had them do things and show them to each other, they'd all be like, no, I don't think it's anything. Because comedians are very, very competitive with each other. Like the feedback would always be negative. Not all of them, but a lot of comedians are just really, really competitive. It's a very tough business. And I don't know. I've never done stand-up in my life. I couldn't imagine getting up there and being like, hey, you didn't think that was funny? Get it up.
I'd turn into the Joker from the most recent movie. I'd just be like,
So we've had you were the original person. I mean, we asked you on, Andy, because we're big fans of education, of course, and the Tonight Show, but I also knew about Rocket Power, which I've been giving Alex a slow education on 90s Nickelodeon, early 2000s Nickelodeon. We've had two more since you were on. We had Mark Summers, famously on Double Dare. He was the host on that, and we had DJ McHale, creator of Are You Afraid of the Dark, come on. And I'm going to ask you the same question now that we've had them on and we have on. Being that you were a part of the greatest generation of Nickelodeon, what is your fondest memory of that?
Well, we were lucky in that show. Again, luck has a lot to do with it, but we were lucky because we were brought in. They had a concept for a show, but they didn't have a show. And they asked my partner and I to come up with a take and a pitch and characters and how we wanted to do it. And it just so happened to fall at the time when the Rugrats movie was being made, and it was the first movie that Nickelodeon had done, and it was the first movie the studio I was at, Klasky Chupo, had done. And so we're just like, hey, we have a pilot, and they're like, yeah, whatever. You go ahead and do that. And they didn't have enough time for us to tell us what they didn't like about it, so we got to make a show that we really wanted to make. And like all those stories, like it takes place in California, but a lot of the slang is from East Coast where Michael and I grew up. So like they call people that come to the beach for the day, they call them shoobies, which is a Philadelphia and New Jersey term. And people totally went nuts when it was on because they're like, oh my gosh, it's not just for California. It's like, no, it was actually just for us, but we got to do storytelling on that. And it was great. It was great. We got to really race ahead. We beat our schedule both seasons just because everybody was so enthusiastic, and we had great board artists, we had great directors. We were lucky. We had Jim Duffy was our supervising director, and he worked on like he did everything. He did the G.I. Joe show, and he was, he's like always comes up with these really smart solutions. So G.I. Joe, they're doing all this action and explosions and all these things. And the characters are like, hurry up, we have to run. And it just sounded flat. So the actors all came in one day, and there were treadmills in the recording studio.
Oh, shit.
Put them all on treadmills if they were running. He made them do the action they were doing on screen. And it went amazing. And they all ended up falling in love with him. So who's the character that doesn't speak in G.I. Joe?
Snake Eyes.
Snake Eyes. If you look at the credits, Snake Eyes gets a voice credit as Jim Duffy, just because they all loved him. So we had a great crew. We had a really wonderful. It was like a nice little family.
Yeah.
Andy, I would love to invite you onto What's the Difference, so we can just sit and just blast about the 90s. I'd love to do that with you.
Yeah.
In the near future.
I'll see if we can find any old photos from the MTV Beach House.
Ooh, yeah.
That'd be amazing.
The 90s.
I was you guys are too young, but I was one of our VJs got sick, and he was the guy that would announce what's coming up. And so Michael, my partner, was like, "How deep can you make your voice?" And he took this big mask and he started dancing with it, and I became the Beach House Tiki God. And we did 2 years of that. I did 4,260 menus for MTV doing that.
Damn.
Yeah. But it was anyway. So yeah, let's. I'd love to join you, and we can reminisce. I can, basically lie about how great everything was, and it'll be great.
I'd love to. Okay, so we're running out of time. So what I'm going to do is I'd love to thank all of the people that have participated today. David, have you had a good time?
I had a great time. I actually thought I was going to die halfway through, but it.
Do you know what? You shocked me, actually. I thought you'd just be like, but the last 2 stages, you were really struggling. So,
yeah, it was pretty rough.
Well done, though. Well done. And what have you learned from today's experience?
From eating those stuff, eating this shit.
Yeah. The quiz.
I learned that this.
Jamie, have you had a great evening this evening? Have you enjoyed your time?
I have, when I finally was able to actually be on the show. Yeah.
Yeah. Would you like to share a story of your greatest moment from the moment you joined USUK?
I'm now going to say releasing you.
What?
Are we going to do this properly? Andy, thank you so much. I'm not going to kick you off the thread. You mean too much to me, Andy. I'm not going to do that to you.
So
Tom
I
Bruno,
and then you kick me off. Is that what happens?
No.
No, he's not going to kick you off. He kicked the other ones off. Fuck those guys.
Tom Bruno, Kenny Eldritch, thank you so much again. You guys are my family from over there. It's been a great time, right?
Yes.
Andy McElfresh, thank you so much. This has been a great time. I love you so much. Join us again, please. Come on, What's the Difference? Ladies and gentlemen, Andy McElfresh, thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Alex and Tom.
And we will catch you guys next week. Thank you.
Bye.